She was dying. The woman he loved, the woman who had become his world, had been hiding terminal cancer all along. As Ryan stood in the hospital hallway, his son's small hand in his, he realized why Olivia had pushed him away every time they got close. It wasn't because she didn't love him. It was because she didn't want him to suffer when she was gone. If this story touches your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more emotional journeys that remind us how precious and unpredictable life can be. Ryan Matthews hadn't planned on falling in love with anyone, let alone his boss. After his wife abandoned him and their 3-year-old son Ethan 2 years ago, he'd sworn off relationships entirely. His world revolved around his little boy and keeping his job as senior graphic designer at Horizon Creative Agency. The last thing he needed was complications. Olivia Chen had built Horizon from nothing. At 35, she was accomplished, driven, and respected throughout the industry. Her sleek office with its floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking downtown was a testament to her success. But few people knew the real Olivia, the woman who sometimes stood at those windows late at night, wondering if her achievements would be all she left behind. Their paths first crossed 3 years ago during Ryan's job interview. He'd been nervous, portfolio clutched in sweaty hands, desperately needing this position after months of unemployment. Ethan had been just a baby then, and Ryan's wife was already showing signs of the restlessness that would eventually lead her to walk out. "Your work shows promise," Olivia had said, her dark eyes studying his designs with an intensity that made him both uncomfortable and exhilarated. "But I need someone who can handle pressure. Someone reliable." Ryan had looked her straight in the eye. "Ms. Chen, I have a 6-month-old at home. I know pressure. And I've never let anyone down who counted on me." Something in his voice must have convinced her, because she'd offered him the job on the spot. What neither of them could have known was how their lives would become intertwined in ways neither had imagined possible. The morning that changed everything came after Ryan had been at Horizon for nearly 3 years. It was a Tuesday in October, the kind of crisp autumn day that painted the city in gold and crimson. Ryan was running late, Ethan had woken with a fever, and the babysitter had cancelled. After a frantic hour of calls, he'd finally reached his sister who agreed to watch Ethan for the day. He burst into the office at 9:45, hair disheveled, tie askew, apologies already forming on his lips. He expected to find Olivia irritated, perhaps even angry. The Carlson presentation was at 11 o'clock, and they still had final adjustments to make. Instead, he found her slumped at her desk, face ashen, a pill bottle clutched in her trembling hand. "Olivia," he'd asked, forgetting formality in his concern. "Are you okay?" She'd straightened immediately, mask sliding back into place. "I'm fine. Just a headache." She tucked the pill bottle into her drawer. "You're late, Matthews." "I know, I'm sorry." "Ethan's sick and the Carlson presentation is in an hour and 15 minutes. We need those revisions." That was Olivia, all business, all the time. But as Ryan hurried to his desk, he couldn't shake the image of her pale face, the slight tremor in her usually steady hands. Over the next few months, Ryan noticed other things. The days when Olivia would disappear for hours without explanation. The weight loss she tried to hide beneath structured blazers. The dark circles under her eyes that even expensive concealer couldn't completely mask. Meanwhile, something else was happening. Their professional relationship was evolving. Late nights working on projects led to takeout dinners in her office. Professional respect grew into genuine admiration. Ryan found himself looking forward to their interactions, savoring her rare smiles, the moments when her guard dropped just enough to reveal the woman beneath the boss. The first time Olivia met Ethan was by accident. Ryan had picked up his son from preschool and stopped by the office to grab files he needed to work on over the weekend. He'd thought everyone had left for the day, but Olivia was there, poring over financial reports. "Daddy, is this your boss?" Ethan had asked, his small voice carrying in the quiet office. Olivia had looked up, startled, and for a moment, Ryan saw something flash across her face, longing, perhaps, or sadness. But then she'd smiled, a real smile that transformed her face. "You must be Ethan," she said, coming around her desk. "Your dad talks about you all the time." Ethan, never shy, had marched right up to her. "Do you like dinosaurs?" "I like T-Rex the best because he has big teeth but little arms." To Ryan's surprise, Olivia had knelt down to Ethan's level. "I like Triceratops myself. They have those cool horns for protection. That's my second favorite." Ethan had exclaimed, delighted to find a kindred spirit. That evening marked a turning point. As they were leaving, Ethan had asked innocently, "Can Olivia come have pizza with us, Daddy? Please?" Ryan had started to refuse, certain his boss would have better things to do on a Friday night. But before he could speak, Olivia had said, "I'd like that, if it's okay with your dad." That night, over pepperoni pizza in Ryan's modest apartment, he saw a different Olivia. She listened intently to Ethan's preschool adventures, laughed at his dinosaur impressions, and helped him build a fort out of couch cushions. When Ethan finally fell asleep, exhausted from the excitement, Ryan and Olivia had talked for hours. She told him about growing up as the daughter of Chinese immigrants who had sacrificed everything for her education. How she'd worked 80-hour weeks to build Horizon. What she hadn't shared was why a successful, beautiful woman like herself lived alone, or why sadness sometimes shadowed her eyes when she thought no one was looking. As weeks passed, Olivia became a regular presence in their lives. She joined them for movie nights and Sunday trips to the park. She helped Ethan with his preschool art projects, her professional designer's eye guiding his enthusiastic scribbles. When Ethan had his 5th birthday, it was Olivia who designed an elaborate dinosaur-themed party that left him wide-eyed with wonder. Ryan found himself falling in love with her, not just with the brilliant, driven businesswoman, but with the warm, thoughtful person who read Ethan bedtime stories with different voices for each character. The woman who remembered that Ryan liked extra olives on his pizza and who challenged him to think bigger about his career goals. But every time he tried to take their relationship beyond friendship, Olivia pulled away. "We work together, Ryan," she'd say. "It's complicated." Or, "You and Ethan deserve someone who can be fully present in your lives." He didn't understand her resistance. The connection between them was undeniable. Ethan adored her. And Ryan had caught her looking at him when she thought he wouldn't notice, with the same longing he felt. The truth began to unravel on a rainy Tuesday in April. Ryan had stopped by Olivia's office to discuss a client proposal, only to find her assistant, Marie, in tears. She collapsed during the board meeting, Marie whispered. "They've taken her to Memorial Hospital." Ryan's world tilted on its axis. Without thinking, he rushed to the hospital, Ethan's preschool on the way. When he arrived at the emergency room, he gave Olivia's name, only to be told that information could only be released to family. "I'm her," he'd started, then stopped. What was he to her, really? Not her boyfriend. Not her family. Just an employee who had fallen in love with a woman who kept pushing him away. He was about to leave when Dr. Sarah Patel emerged from behind the double doors. Ryan recognized her immediately. She was married to one of their clients and had met Olivia at several company events. "Ryan," she said, surprised. "Are you here for Olivia?" "Yes," he said, relief washing over him. "They won't tell me anything. Is she okay?" Dr. Patel's expression grew serious. "I can't discuss her condition without her permission." She hesitated. "But I think she could use a friend right now. Let me ask if she's willing to see you." The minutes that followed were the longest of Ryan's life. When Dr. Patel returned and led him through the maze of hospital corridors, his heart pounded so hard he thought it might break through his ribs. Olivia lay in a hospital bed, looking smaller and more vulnerable than he'd ever seen her. And dripped clear fluid into her arm. Her skin had a grayish tinge that frightened him. "You shouldn't be here," she said when she saw him, but her voice lacked its usual authority. "What's going on, Olivia?" he asked, taking the chair beside her bed. "And don't tell me it's just a headache." For a long moment, she was silent, her eyes fixed on the ceiling. Then, so quietly he almost missed it, she said, "Glioblastoma. Brain cancer. Stage 4. The words hit him like physical blows. "How long have you known?" "I was diagnosed 18 months ago." 18 months. Before Ethan's birthday party. Before Christmas when she'd given Ryan a rare first edition of his favorite novel. Before all the time she'd pushed him away when he tried to get closer. "The prognosis isn't good," she continued, her voice clinical, detached, as if she were discussing a business projection rather than her own life. "I've had surgery, radiation, chemotherapy. It bought me some time, but..." She finally looked at him. "I have maybe 6 months. That's why I couldn't let us, become more than friends." Ryan felt as though he were drowning, struggling to process her words. "Why didn't you tell me?" "And say what?" "By the way, I'm dying, but would you like to date anyway?" Bitterness crept into her voice. "You've already been abandoned once, Ryan. Ethan's already lost one mother figure. I couldn't bear to make you both go through that again." "That wasn't your decision to make," Ryan said, anger flaring through his shock. "You should have told me. You should have let me choose. I was protecting you." "No," he said firmly. "You were protecting yourself." The truth of his words hung between them. Olivia had always been the one in control, of her company, of her life, even of her illness as much as possible. Letting Ryan in would have meant surrendering that control, acknowledging that some things couldn't be managed with the same precision as a business plan. In the days that followed, Ryan struggled with a whirlwind of emotions, anger at Olivia for keeping her illness secret, fear of losing her, and a deepening love that refused to be denied. Ethan sensed something was wrong and asked repeatedly why Olivia hadn't visited lately. A week after her collapse, Ryan made a decision. He picked up Ethan from preschool and drove to Olivia's elegant downtown condo. When she opened the door, surprise registered on her face. She looked better than she had in the hospital, but still too thin, too pale. Behind her, Ryan could see evidence of her illness that she'd hidden so carefully before: prescription bottles lined up on the kitchen counter, a calendar marked with doctor appointments, a wig stand on the side table. "Ryan, what are you?" "Olivia." Ethan broke free from Ryan's hand and threw himself at her legs. "I missed you. Are you sick?" "Daddy says you're sick but you'll get better." Ryan watched as Olivia's composure cracked. She knelt down and hugged Ethan tightly, her eyes closing as she pressed her cheek against his hair. "I've missed you too, buddy," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "We brought soup," Ethan announced proudly, holding up a paper bag. "Daddy says soup makes sick people feel better." Over Ethan's head, Olivia's eyes met Ryan's, questioning. "We're not going anywhere," Ryan said quietly. "You can push us away, but we'll just keep coming back." That evening marked the beginning of a new chapter. As Ethan chattered about preschool and dinosaurs, Ryan and Olivia had a silent conversation with their eyes. Later, after Ethan had fallen asleep on Olivia's couch, they finally talked, really talked. "I'm scared," Olivia admitted, the words seeming to cost her. "Not just of dying, but of what comes before. The pain, the loss of dignity, the burden I'll become." "You could never be a burden," Ryan said, taking her hand. "And you don't have to do this alone." "I've always been alone," she said. "My parents died years ago. I focused on my career instead of relationships. The company has been my life." "Not anymore," Ryan said. "Now you have us." In the months that followed, they created a new normal. Ryan and Ethan spent most evenings and weekends at Olivia's condo. She continued working as much as her health allowed, but she also made time for what truly mattered: lazy Sunday mornings making pancakes with Ethan, quiet evenings watching the sunset with Ryan, creating memories that would have to last a lifetime. There were hard days, days when the pain was too intense, when treatments left her too weak to get out of bed, when the reality of what was coming cast a shadow over everything. But there were beautiful days too: Ethan's preschool graduation where Olivia sat in the front row, beaming with pride, a weekend trip to the beach where they built sandcastles and collected shells, quiet moments when Ryan held her close, memorizing the feel of her in his arms. As summer turned to fall, Olivia's condition deteriorated. Hospital visits became more frequent. The experimental treatment they'd pinned their hopes on failed to slow the tumor's growth. Ryan took family leave from work to be with her, and the company she'd built rallied around her, keeping things running smoothly in her absence. On a golden October afternoon, much like the day Ryan had first found her with the pill bottle, Olivia asked to speak to him alone while his sister took Ethan to the park. "I need you to promise me something," she said, her voice weaker now but still determined. "Anything," Ryan said, meaning it completely. "Don't let Ethan remember me like this." She gestured to her frail body, the hospital bed that had been installed in her living room. "Tell him stories about the good times. Show him pictures from before. I want him to remember me strong." Ryan's throat tightened. "He loves you exactly as you are." "And I love him," she said, tears filling her eyes. "Both of you. More than I thought possible. You gave me something I never expected to have, a family." "Marry me," Ryan said suddenly, the words bursting from him. "I know it's crazy, I know we don't have much time, but I love you, Olivia. I want to be your husband, even if it's just for a little while." For a moment, she looked like she might refuse, the old Olivia, always protecting herself, always keeping control. But then she smiled, a smile that lit up her face despite everything. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes." They were married 3 days later in Olivia's living room. It wasn't the wedding either of them had imagined: Olivia in a silk robe instead of a wedding gown, a hospital bed instead of an altar. But as Ethan proudly carried the rings on a small pillow and their closest friends gathered around, it was perfect in its own way. "I promise to love you for all the days of my life," Ryan vowed, his voice steady despite the tears in his eyes. "And I promise to love you and Ethan forever," Olivia replied. Some promises transcend time. 2 weeks later, Olivia Chen Matthews slipped away peacefully in her sleep, Ryan's hand in hers, Ethan curled against her side. The days that followed passed in a blur of grief. Ryan moved through the funeral arrangements, the condolence calls, the legal paperwork like a man underwater, everything muffled and distant. Only Ethan anchored him to reality, his son's questions about where Olivia had gone, his tears when he realized she wasn't coming back, his solemn promise to remember the dinosaur names she had taught him. A month after Olivia's death, Marie, her assistant, came to Ryan's apartment with a package. "She asked me to give you this," Marie said, handing him a beautifully wrapped box. Inside, Ryan found dozens of sealed envelopes, each labeled with a date: Ethan's birthdays, Christmases, graduation stretching years into the future. Letters from Olivia to the son of her heart, ensuring that even though she was gone, her love and guidance would remain. There was also a letter for Ryan, and as he read her words of love, of gratitude for the joy he had brought to